So let's talk about UFC 314. We're going to do a card builder for this card. It's taking place in Miami on, I believe, April 8th. But I've made a card builder including 3 early prelim fights, 5 prelim fights, and 5 fights on the main card. There was one already rumored for this, and then the main event, I have a pretty confident prediction on what it's going to be. It's what I've said it's going to be for a little bit now. But yeah, let's break it down. I'm going to start by giving you the main event, and then we're going to go start with the early prelims and going up. I'm not going to take too much time on those early prelims and prelims because I know you want to hear more about the main card, but it takes place in Miami. I think the main event is going to be, as much as I may not like it, Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria 2 rematch for the featherweight belt. Now, does Volk kind of deserve a rematch? Because of his dominance in the featherweight division, yeah. Do I want to see a rematch right now? Not really. I think you guys know how I feel about this. I've said it numerous times. Do I think Volk beats anyone in the featherweight division not named Ilia Topuria? Yes. I think he stuffs every takedown of Movsar Evloev, and I think he beats him up by a decision. I think he beats up Diego Lopez. I honestly think he takes Lopez to school. Yair could always land a head kick, but I don't see that happening. Ortega's not beating him. Arnold Allen, I don't see beating him. Josh Emmett could land a fucking meaty overhand that could knock him out, but again, more likely it's just going to be Volk piecing him up the whole time. Here's my thing. I don't see this fight going much differently than it did the first time. I think Volk is going to win rounds, win the first round, win the second round, and I think this time Volk will stall it out till round 3. But I think at the end of the day, Ilia is just going to land a combination that puts Volk to sleep in round 3. We're going to see another knockout win for Ilia. I don't love it. It's probably what's going to happen. I mean, I just can't see it really going any differently. What else is Volk going to do? He's talking on Lucas Tracy's channel about different tricks he's got up his sleeve and other things he's going to do for this. He can try and grapple Ilia, and he can really test it to see how good Ilia's grappling is, because Volk does have very, very good grappling, but I don't see him being able to grapple Ilia to a decision here. Volk could definitely win a decision if it gets there, but I just don't see it getting there. I can't see a world in which it does. I think Volk can use his jab really well. I think he busted Ilia up with the jab a lot in his lead kicks, but he's not going to be able to do that for 25 full minutes just by mixing in some grappling to go along with it. I just think Ilia's too good, gets better every fight, and his combinations are insane. Volk, yes, I bet his chin is a little bit more refreshed, but your chin can be as refreshed as it possibly is. At the end of the day, you get hit with a punch from Ilia, you're going to sleep. We saw that because it literally happened to Max Holloway. I don't know how this really helped. If Volk wins, his legacy is oh my god, this guy's the GOAT. But if he doesn't, if he loses, this only is going to make people go, Ilia was never that good. Volk was never that good, bro. He's washed. He's 35. He's washed, blah, blah, blah. Volk is not fucking washed, dude. He's still the most skilled guy in, the UFC, honestly. But, that's the narrative that's going to be. If Volk went out there, beat Movsar Evloev, and then goes, yep, I want my title fight with Ilia, then you go, oh my god, y'all must have forgot, Volk is back moment. He gets his title fight with Ilia. But instead, we're probably going to have a situation here where Ilia knocks out Volk, and you're going to have everyone going, Volk's washed, this, that, that. And not only does that suck for Volk fans and Volk, that sucks for fucking Ilia too, because everyone's going to go, dude, he beat a washed Volk by knockout the first time, then he knocked out Max, yeah, sure, that's good, but then he knocks out Volk again, a washed Volk, that's not even that great of a resume. You're just going to, that's the kind of narrative that's going to be surrounding it. This doesn't necessarily help Ilia's legacy. It does for realizing, the name on his resume is Volk twice, but Volk's coming off a knockout loss to Ilia. I get why the UFC did this. Volk is the kind of guy that's dude, he's done so much for the UFC. He's a big name. He's super talented. He is, the most talented guy in the division, and sure, for everything he's done in his long title reign, he does deserve a rematch, but, fans don't want to see this, man. They really don't. Love Volk. I don't want to see him get fucking knocked out again, dude. It's just, it sucks. And then the counter side is, I also like Ilia Topuria a lot, and this is just not doing enough for his legacy here, so they're going to do Volk Ilia too. I'm very confident of that. It's going to be the main event. It's just fucking hurts to see, man. I'm going to be real. But let's move on to the early prelims. Starting off in the early prelims, First fight, I think, would make sense. It's in the welterweight division. Charles Radke versus Chidi Njokuani. Both guys coming off wins. Let's have a matchup against each other. Pretty interesting styles. Chidi Njokuani looked good in his last fight against Jared Gooden. Not that impressive, but like dominated him in the clinch the whole fight and did damage in the clinch, which was good to see. A lot of knees to the body, a lot of elbows. It looked good. Charles Radke's got himself on a winning streak, or got a win recently here by finish. He's looked pretty good. He's a guy that, you want to hear him on the mic plenty of times because he's going to say it, man. Radke will say it again. And that's what we want. But I think this is a good fight to start off the card. Two guys that are in a decent standing in the welterweight division, coming off wins, fighting each other, setting themselves up to move up in the rankings. It's a good fight. Moving on. And I think it's evenly matched too. Azat Maxim, Alessandro Costa, you need unranked but solid feather flyweights on the early prelims of a pay-per-view like this. You do. They're going to have a good fight. Now, I don't think Azat Maxim's as good as his record says. But he's all right. Like, he is all right. And same with Alessandro Costa. I actually think very highly of Alessandro Costa. I think these two guys both can be ranked at some point in their career. I think very soon they can both be ranked. Like, Azat Maxim's not bad, but I don't know. People tend to see the flag and they go, dude, title contender. Immediately. Look at that flag. It's like, dude, everyone says the same thing with Asu Almabayev, but all he does is literally hold on for dear life on takedowns. And I think Asu's grappling's very, very good. I just don't think he's ever going to make it to a title. Just being real. That's how I think. If I'm wrong, I'll fucking tell you I'm wrong. When I'm wrong, I fucking eat it. I'm telling you. But Azat Maxim, Alessandro Costa is one of those flyweight bangers that you go, dude, like these two stole the show and it was the second fight of the card. It's going to get the crowd into it and going early. And when you go to one of these places that isn't Vegas or LA, like California, like when you go to one of these places that isn't the West Coast, you get people showing up to the fights earlier because it's happening later in their time zone and they get jazzed up for the fights. I can see this being one of those fights that gets people fired up right after Radke calls someone a on the mic. Like, this is a great way to go for it. But we're going to move on. Next fight, banger at featherweight. Isaac Dulgarian hasn't fought in a hot minute. Need to see this guy fight soon. I'd like to see a Danny Silva fight. These are two featherweight fighters that I think are very, very talented, really good. Would love to see him scrap it out. They're at similar spots in the Tapology rankings. No, doesn't necessarily mean the exact rankings, but like, they're both of equal skill in my opinion. I think Isaac Dulgarian is, I don't want to say overhyped, but like, he's very good. He's a great grappler. He's got power. But I think Danny Silva is one of those really slept-on featherweights that not a lot of people know a lot about, and I think this can make for a very good fight. The scrambles would be great, and we'd see who's better on the feet, which technically I think is Danny Silva. But I do think Isaac Dulgarian has that power advantage, so I'd be very curious to see how this goes. Danny Silva, Isaac Dulgarian, I think is a great fight to put on the early prelims and finish the early prelims. Not crazy names, but you put them in front of a crowd like this with a good stylistic matchup, whoever wins name is going to go up in value because this is guaranteed to be a banger. So I think this fight makes a lot of sense. We're going to move on. First fight of the prelims. Dustin Stoltzfus, say what you want about how good he is or how not good he is. This guy literally puts on a scrap every time. It's one round usually. He either knocks someone out or gets knocked out, but he's always out there to fight and have a good fight. I think him versus Cesar Almeida makes a lot of sense. Listen, you're going to have Cesar Almeida on one of these cards. The Miami population is very Latino heavy, and I get that Cesar Almeida is Brazilian, but like he's got that like name that a lot of people will attract to. Listen, he fought recently. And he got a knockout win. Now, he did get knocked down by Abdul Razak Al Hassan, but these glory kickboxing guys, like, they fucking turn around and they fight quick. These kickboxers, like, fight very frequently. Every 3 months, they're in there. And I think it's a proper fight in the rankings. I don't think you should give Cesar Almeida just a monster jump up again, because you saw that when he fought Kopylov. Like, it was a split, but he clearly lost 29-28. And I don't think Stoltzfus is someone that's going to try and take him down. You have a chance to build up Cesar Almeida's name here with a guy that's going to strike with him and actually stand in there and go to war with him and say, fuck it, you or me, one of us is getting knocked out. I think it's the perfect kind of matchup to build Almeida's name. And if Almeida loses, he's not real deal. He's 37 years old or something like that, 36, 38 maybe. I don't, like, if he loses, it's like, all right, it is what it is. Like, we lost a 38-year-old prospect. It's not that big of a deal. And if Stoltzfus wins, it's like, dude, this guy's, again, going out there and putting on fun fights. So I think it makes a lot of sense. We're going to move on. It's in the middleweight division. Now, there's going to be a chick fight on this. I just said, like, why not just make a fun one? Aaron Blanchfield, Macy Barber. I think it's a good fight, honestly. Any Macy Barber fight actually is a lot of fun. I think Macy Barber's probably going to be good to fight around April. I know she was dealing with some medical stuff a while back in July. I think 9 months is probably good enough. If she's not, then we'll reassess that. But like, you guys aren't here to watch the card builder for this stuff, right? Like, you're not. This is not the fight you get jazzed up about. But what I will say is, listen, Macy Barber does make good fights, and Erin Blanchfield does stink it up from time to time. But she's a #1 contender for beating Rose Namajunas, which I still think she lost. But Erin Blanchfield is someone that's going to have to like get on another win streak to get ready to fight for a title because she got dominated by Manon Fiorot. She's waiting for a fight there. If Zhang Weili wins, you're going to have her probably looking to fight for the flyweight belt to get a double champ status. It's just these contenders are going to have to sort it out while you have Fiorot waiting up top, while you have Zhang Weili has a chance of moving up if she gets a win against Tatiana Suarez. You're going to have Grasso hanging around there, which I wouldn't hate Grasso being on this card too, but for some reason, dude, I'm telling you, they would put Grasso on the pay-per-view, and that's what we're trying to avoid here, not putting fights that don't matter that much on the pay-per-view. Just saying it how it is. Macy Barber, Erin Blanchfield, 2 top contenders in the flyweight division. Make them fight each other to see who's going to start going up those rankings again, or who's going to actually start looking towards a title fight. We're going to move on. Kyler Phillips coming off a loss to Rob Font in his last fight. Unimpressive performance. Needs to fight down in the rankings. I think this guy's tremendously overrated. I've said it for a bit now. Montel Jackson. Montel Jackson's coming off an 18-second knockout win against Damone Blackshear. Hasn't fought since. Where the fuck has this guy been? Look, I think they fought on St. Louis. UFC St. Louis in May of 2024. Dude, come on. It's almost February here. Let's see you get back in the octagon. You just got in the rankings. Don't dick around and do nothing. You're going to lose your ranking spot. Someone else is going to get wins and jump ahead of you. Fight someone like Kyler Phillips where you have a chance to jump up in the rankings, have a chance to get a victory, make your name felt again. This makes a lot of sense to me. Kyler Phillips, Montel Jackson. Kyler Phillips fought on the Miami card last year where Sugar Sean was on the card. I think it makes a ton of sense. Number 15 versus number 12. This will be a decent fight. Montel Jackson will bring the fight. Kyler Phillips will bring it for a round and then either win or get slept. Like, he's probably not going to get slept. I don't know. We'd see. But this is ranked bantamweights on the prelims here. The reason I put him on the prelims is like they don't have massive names. People don't go like, oh, dude, Kyler Phillips, big name. If you are, you're trying too hard to be a hardcore. Same with Montel Jackson. It's like, dude, he had a sick knockout in his last fight. He's on a win streak, but he's not selling pay-per-views. That's what the main card's for, is selling pay-per-views. So Montel Jackson, Kyler Phillips, winner gets a chance to build their name and go up in the bantamweight rankings or stay where they are if they're Kyler Phillips. Moving on. Bogdan Guskov, I think he can make a quick turnaround here. Easy fight against Billy Elikana. Now, again, he was in trouble for a couple minutes there. Almost got subbed, but he ends up getting the win. Billy Elikana just didn't have the tank because he took it on short notice. It is what it is. But I think Bogdan Guskov should get his Johnny Walker rematch. I think it makes sense. 2 guys similar spots in the rankings at light heavyweight. Let's see them scrap it out, dude. Johnny Walker, Bogdan Guskov. I actually think Johnny Walker would win this fight, seeing how defensively terrible Guskov is, but he's a tough cookie, man. He'll stay in there, and if you land on Johnny Walker, there's a chance you're putting him out. But Johnny Walker, Bogdan Guskov, I think that's a great co-headliner, we'll call it, to the prelims. It's ranked light heavyweight, man. Like, you'd love to see this as the 7th fight on the card. It'd be great. Moving on, prelim headliner, Lerone Murphy, another guy that is fun to watch usually. Very, very good fighter, ranked at featherweight, so it's another guy that you can have, like, you can showcase some featherweights a little bit on this Volkanovski-Topuria 2 card. Put him against Arnold Allen. I think these 2 guys, while they have names with the hardcores, like, this is one of those ones where the hardcore see it and they go, this is a scrap, and you know it's like, it is a scrap. 2 guys from England, 1 guy's coming out on top, but it gives them a chance to continue to build their name and let more people know who it is. It's a spotlight for featherweight. And it's a good fight. Now, the reason I put this on not the main card is because both guys in their most recent fights didn't have the most impressive and fun performances. Again, they won against good opponents. Lerone Murphy beat Danny Ige, good opponent. Didn't do it in the most impressive or fun fashion. He did it on 308 in Abu Dhabi. He won. Not the most impressive win, but he won. Arnold Allen beat Giga Chikadze, 29-28 in London, was it? Or was it Manchester? I think it was Manchester. Beat him on the July pay-per-view, UFC 304, and he hasn't fought since. Would have loved to see the Yair matchup, but we didn't. Now, this is one that I would have loved to see them put as like the co-main event or the feature fight on the UFC London card, but they didn't. So, I think it makes sense for a prelim headliner here. Arnold Allen, Lerone Murphy, this is a sick fight to headline the prelims. It's even main card worthy, but if we're having it main event the prelims, that's solid. Now, we know our main event here is Ilia versus Volk too, sadly. But, what's going to open up the card? We're in Miami. Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. This fight has been rumored, all but accepted. It's very, very close. I think they're going to make it happen. I think Gilbert Burns is willing to make it happen. I'm sure Miles Morales. I'm going to do this all the time. Michael Morales is, I'm sure, willing to take the jump up against a veteran with a big name like Gilbert Burns. It's a good fight. I'd be interested to see how it goes. But it makes sense. It's like number 8 at welterweight versus number 11 or 12 at welterweight. Morales undefeated, coming off a win over Neil Magny, a knockout win over Neil Magny, quicker than Carlos Prates got it, just saying. And I like Prates, dude. I do. But like, people talk about Prates like Michael Morales didn't do the same fucking thing like a month earlier. But it is what it is. Michael Morales, Gilbert Burns. I'm sure Gilbert wants to fight on the Miami card. He said he wanted to fight on the Miami card. He knows he's going to have to fight an up-and-coming contender to try and keep his ranking spot. Let's make it happen. Morales, Burns, sick fight. And if that opens up the main card, you know we're in for a good one. Moving on. Paddy Pimblett, Renato Moicano. Listen, I know Moicano got choked out by Islam Makhachev, but it's not like he took a crazy amount of damage. He didn't really take any. He just got choked out and around. He's willing to make a turnaround. Paddy's yapping at him on Twitter. This is a fight that will build so much hype. This helps sell a pay-per-view as well. And then you have Moicano and Gilbert Burns at the same press conference. They already do a podcast together. This makes a ton of sense. Moicano and Pimblett are going to yap. They are. They're going to help sell the shit out of this card. And then you have Moicano on the panel with his boy Gilbert Burns. This is sick. Two guys with tremendous grappling and jiu-jitsu. Could use a little bit of help in the striking, both guys, but like, it's a good, fun fight of two guys that are gonna shit talk, build this card, and are at similar spots in the rankings. Now, I think Moicano should be higher than he's ranked still, but again, I get it, I'm biased. Big Moicano fan, but I'm a Pimblett fan too, dude. Like, I'm on the Pimblett train, brother. I think it's a sick fight, and if you make it as the 4th fight on the card, this is gonna help sell with the press conference. Like, these two at the press conference will help sell more pay-per-views just by having them talk shit to each other. Think it makes all the sense in the world. Moicano, Pimblett, winner gets to start looking up at those rankings. A Dan Hooker matchup that we've been waiting for. The winner gets to fight Dan Hooker or Gaethje, whoever loses. Like, it makes sense to me. Moving on. You can't be in Miami without Jorge Masvidal. Well, you could. We did it last year. But, listen, Masvidal's been talking about him coming back to the UFC. I think he's in the drug testing pool. Because he is still competing like in boxing, and he's talked about wanting another MMA fight. You think Dana won't oblige for Jorge Masvidal? Think it makes sense. Now, he's not going to take a fight that's outside the rankings unless it's like a big name like Nate Diaz, he's going to get paid a shit ton of money to do it. I think Jorge destroys Nate Diaz in an octagon. I think he beat him in boxing, but again, everyone's going to be like, you don't know how to score boxing. It's like, you're kind of right, but when I look at someone throw nothing of substance or power off the arms, and I see someone else landing counter shots, I'm like, well, the guy that landed counter shots and looked like he did more damage should win, right? I don't know. Apparently, I don't know how to judge. But I think Masvidal making his return fight against the number 13 ranked Vicente Luque would be big. Vicente Luque is another guy that trains out of the gym with a Gilbert Burns. Jorge Masvidal, King of Miami, right? Like, it's a fight that makes sense. They're going to, like, listen, I don't think these guys are going to shit talk each other at the press conference, but just having Masvidal there is going to sell more pay-per-views. So it's good. Masvidal, Luque, guaranteed good fight, probably staying on the feet most of the time, and they're going to go to war. I think this is a great fight. It's winnable for Masvidal. It's winnable for Luque as well, and it's a big name that I'm willing to bet Luque is willing to take on. So, Masvidal, Luque, feature fight, and then the co-main. Come on, guys. I've been asking for this fight for so long. The other King of Miami, Colby Covington versus Ian Gary, 5 rounds, co-main event. Both coming off losses on fights in December. I think Colby's going to want to fight on this card. I think having him at the same press conference as Jorge Masvidal is a recipe for a beautiful press conference. While you have Moicano and Pimblett yapping at each other, you have Colby versus Masvidal yapping at each other. If both win, they get to fight each other again and just can be on a pay-per-view again together. Not headlining, dude. We can't. It's not, no. Co-main event, maybe. Fine. But, like, you do Colby Covington versus Ian Gary. Odds are odds are Gary and Luque will probably win this fight. Those will probably be my picks. But then you have those two, like, I don't know, dude. Like, it helps those two. You're going to have Colby go at Ian Gary. You're going to have Colby go at Jorge Masvidal. You're going to have Volk go at Colby. You're going to have Ilia go at Volk. Volk go back at Ilia. And then you're going to have Moicano and Pimblett start yapping at each other. And Moicano's going to start making fun of all the liberals again. That's what he's going to do. He's going to go, fuck the globalists. And it's just going to come out of nowhere. And Gilbert and Morales are going to be like, I don't really have beef with anybody. Actually, Gilbert will yap at Colby too. Masvidal might throw some shade at Gilbert. Gilbert's going to be like, dude, didn't I beat your ass? And then Vicente's going to be like, dude, focus on me. Stop talking about my teammate. Fuck, like, imagine this lineup for a press conference. This pay-per-view will sell a ton because of bad blood on this card. We've been wanting to see Colby versus Ian Gary, both coming off losses in December. It makes sense. They can market a fight against each other. This makes sense, and especially when you have a main event like Ilia versus Volk, where a lot of people think that, like, we know what's going to happen in this fight. It's not the most attractive rematch to see right now. How do you sell the pay-per-view? You put absolute bad blood on the card. Colby and Ian. Then you have Jorge on the card, who's going to hate at him. You have Gilbert on the card. You have Moicano and Pimblett on the card. This is how you sell a pay-per-view. This makes all the sense in the world. Ilia Volk 2, main event. Colby Ian Gary, 5-round co-main event. Jorge Masvidal makes his return against number 13 or 14 ranked Vicente Luque in Miami, makes his return. Moicano Pimblett, 2 ranked guys going at each other on Twitter the whole time. Undefeated Michael Morales goes against perennial contender in the welterweight division. Gilbert Burns fought for a title before. Can he stay in his spot, or is Morales going to continue to dominate and go up in the rankings? Then you have the prelims of a bunch more ranked fights. Like, it makes a lot of sense. This is the UFC 314 card builder. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of this card. I think it's a banger, especially helping out what I think is don't want to call it a weak main event, but a predictable main event. So let me know what you think of the card. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe.